Her engagement broke off, and she unexpectedly married a poor man, not knowing at all he was a secret rich man. The big hall of the St. Regis Hotel gleamed under warm, bright lights. The air was heavy with the smells of roses and bubbly, full of soft talk from fancy guests. All was perfect, just as Sophia pictured her party to be. She stood near the room's middle, her hands gently holding a glass of wine, her heart fluttering with joy. Tonight, before them all, she and Daniel would at last share their big news. Her groom-to-be was running late, but that wasn't odd. Daniel was a busy man, a growing name in business, eager and smart. But he always came for her. Always. She fixed the fine lace on her light blue dress, quickly looking at her parents, who were talking politely with a group of important guests. They had really wanted this match, making sure Daniel was a good fit for their family's name. Sophia sighed, taking another sip of bubbly. "Where is he?" Then the doors to the big hall burst open. Everyone looked, and in walked Daniel, not alone, but holding hands with another woman. Sophia froze inside. Soft talk spread through the people. A server stopped, pouring, bubbly splashing on the tablecloth. Cameras from the asked reporters aimed, filming the trouble starting before them. Sophia couldn't move. It was Lisa Carter, the daughter of one of Daniel's most key business friends. She looked amazing, dressed in a smooth red dress that fit her very tightly. Her mouth turned into a sly smile. And Daniel? He looked totally calm. He was still holding her hand. Sophia made herself talk. Her voice was a whisper, hardly heard above the tight feeling in the room. "Daniel." He stopped a few feet away from her, looked her dead in the eyes, and then, with cold lack of care, he spoke. "Sophia, I can't marry you." The words felt like a hard hit. The whole room went quiet. Sophia caught her breath. "What are you saying?" Daniel breathed out like this was just a small problem. "Let's be honest here, Sophia. You have nothing to give me." Her inside felt sick. I don't get it. You asked me to marry you." Daniel's mouth twisted into a shape not quite a smile. "Did I, though? Or was it just a talk our family set up?" Her eyes got misty. "I needed the power of your family's name," he went on, "but now I have smarter choices." Lisa giggled gently, squeezing Daniel's arm. "He means me." Sophia felt unwell. This is a joke, right?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel's gaze became cold. "I never loved you, Sophia," he said, his voice harsh and piercing. "You were just a tool, and now I don't need you anymore." A quick intake of breath broke through the room. Someone dropped a glass. Sophia's hands shook as she looked at him, trying to find anything, any sign that this wasn't real, that this wasn't happening. But Daniel just smirked. Lisa tilted her head, fake pity coming from her voice. "You're a nice person, Sophia, but let's be real. You don't fit into Daniel's life. You never did." Sophia's whole self felt numb. 100 pairs of eyes were on her, watching, waiting to see how she would break down. She could feel the whispers. Poor girl, so shameful. Did she really think he loved her? Her mother's voice cut through the heavy quiet. "Sophia." Sophia turned slowly, hoping just this once that her mother would stand up for her. But the look on her mother's face wasn't one of worry, it was strong dislike. "You have shamed us all," her mother said, her voice deep and cutting like a knife. Sophia's lips opened. I didn't." "If you can't find a partner with money and status," her mother went on harshly, "then you are no longer a daughter of mine." It was the last hard hit. Sophia stepped back unsure. Her mother turned away, leaving her alone in a room full of people. Her whole life had just broken. The streets of Manhattan were harsh after dark, especially when you were walking alone in a fancy dress that now felt wrong on her. Sophia's heels tapped on the ground, the sound loud, constant, teasing. Her feet hurt, the thin shoes cutting her skin, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Not when every time she closed her eyes, she could still hear Daniel's voice, cold, final. "I never loved you." Her mother's voice wasn't far behind, cutting through her already pained heart. "You are no longer a daughter of mine." A trembling sigh left her mouth as she walked on unsteadily, the cold night air stinging her chest. The diamond wedding ring that had once shone brightly on her hand was gone, left behind on the stone floor of the big hall. She had nothing now. No groom-to-be, no family, no future. She didn't know how long she walked aimlessly, but in time, the warm glow of a small, faintly lit pub drew her near. It wasn't the kind of place she normally would have gone into, too old, too quiet, too new to her. But right now, she didn't care. She just needed a drink. The server hardly looked at her as she slipped onto the old chair, her dress wrong against the flaking wood and blinking neon signs. "Whiskey," she muttered. "Neat." The server lifted a brow but said nothing, pouring her a glass before stepping away. Sophia gulped the first taste, cringing as the heat burned her throat. Good, she thought. She wanted it to hurt. "You don't seem like the whiskey type," a voice said, smooth, deep, and filled with interest. Sophia turned her head and found herself looking at a man sitting a few chairs away. He was not the kind of man she was used to. No fancy suit, no expensive watch. Instead, he wore a plain dark jacket over a simple gray t-shirt. His hair was a bit messy, as if he didn't care to make it look just right. But his eyes, they were powerful, profound, hard to know, as if he held truths she could never grasp. "Maybe I wasn't before," Sophia whispered, taking another sip. "But people change." The man tilted his head, watching her closely. "Rough night?" She let out a sad chuckle. "You could say that." For some reason, she found herself talking, the whiskey easing the hurt stuck in her heart. She told him about the broken promise, the being let down, the feeling shamed. She didn't know why. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because he wouldn't see her badly like other people did. The man listened, never cutting in, just watching her with those deep, wise eyes. And then, when she finished, he leaned forward, placing his arms on the bar. "If you need a husband," he said simply, "I'm right here." Sophia blinked. Then she laughed, really laughed. "You?" she teased, eyes shining with tipsy fun. "You want to marry me?" The man smiled, a slow, easy twist of his mouth. "Why not? You need a husband? I don't have anything better to do." It was wild, totally mad. And yet, a feeling in Sophia's heart awoke. Maybe it was the drink. Maybe it was the deep sadness. Maybe it was the fact that, for the first time tonight, she felt like she was in charge of her own path. So she lifted her glass in a fake cheer and grinned. "All right, stranger, let's get married." Sophia woke up with a throbbing head pain and a strange feeling that something was off. The sheets beneath her were not the smooth ones from her rich home. The air smelled slightly of coffee and something new, and then she saw it, a cheap silver ring on her left hand. Her heart sank. She turned her head slowly, too scared of what she would find. And there he was, the stranger from the pub. Liam, lying next to her, shirtless, one arm resting softly on his chest, his breathing even. Sophia gasped. What on earth had she done? Sophia sat on the edge of the old sofa, staring at the flaking paint on the walls, the faint light making long, dark shapes across the small apartment. This was her new home. She still wasn't sure how it had come to this, how she had gone from smooth sheets and stone floors to this small, messy place with squeaky wood floors and a tiny kitchen hardly big enough for one. How she had gone from being Sophia Davenport, the fancy partner of a rich man, to Sophia, whatever her last name was now. She looked down at the cheap silver ring on her hand, as if hoping it would disappear and take this strange bad dream with it. But it didn't. Instead, there was sound from the tiny kitchen. She turned her head and saw Liam, her husband, the stranger she had agreed to marry in a tipsy state. He was standing by the stove, dressed in nothing but a pair of sweatpants, his back turned to her as he turned something in a pan. The smell of rich eggs and bread filled the apartment, making her belly rumble before she could stop it. Liam looked back, seeing her watching. "Morning, wifey," he said, smirking. Sophia sighed and covered her face with her hands. "I was hoping this was just a bad dream," she mumbled. Liam giggled. "Nope, it's real. You married a stranger. Congrats." Sophia looked through her hands. "And you're completely okay with this?" He shrugged, placing 2 plates of mixed eggs and toast on the tiny dining table. "I'm a person who keeps promises. You needed a husband. I delivered." Sophia breathed out fast, shaking her head. "This is insane." Liam slid into the chair across from her, watching her closely. "Eat first. Then we can talk about how much you regret your choices." She frowned at him, but picked up her fork anyway. The truth of her state became clear over the next few days. She had nothing. No way to her family's funds, no fancy clothes, no maids to tidy for her. She had to wash dishes, do laundry, and worst of all, she had to manage money. She had never managed money in her life. The first time she followed Liam to the food store, she had grabbed a $12 bottle of pure water, only for him to lift a brow and put it back. "You're not a Davenport anymore, princess," he said, tossing a 99-cent bottle into the cart instead. "Welcome to the real world." Sophia sighed in annoyance, but said nothing. It was shameful, annoying, and yet strangely liberating. For the first time, there were no demands. No stress to be the ideal partygoer. No critical eyes seeing her every step. And then there was Liam. He wasn't like the men she had known. Men who spent money wildly, who judged value by riches. Liam was different. Despite his light jokes, he never let her have trouble. When she burned their dinner, he just laughed and bought food from outside. When she stumbled on a shaky floor piece, he was there to catch her before she could hit the ground. And one rainy evening when the lights went off and she sat huddled on the sofa, feeling more lost than ever, Liam simply grabbed a blanket, put it on her shoulders, and sat beside her in silence. He didn't feel sorry for her. He just got it. And slowly, very slowly, Sophia began to realize maybe she wasn't as helpless as she felt. Sophia had always felt good about knowing people well. Growing up in rich social circles, she had learned to recognize the small signs, the way someone held their body, the small pause in their voice when they lied, the flash of wanting in their eyes when they desired something. But Liam didn't make sense. At first, she had accepted that he was just a regular guy, someone who lived from week to week, someone who didn't care for fancy things or too much spending. But little things didn't fit. It started with the wine. One evening, Liam brought home a bottle of red wine. Nothing fancy, just something he had grabbed from the store. Sophia, having grown up in a world where people argued about wine quality and place, had given a small smile. "Let me guess," she teased. "You're a beer guy, aren't you?" Liam giggled, but said nothing as he poured himself a glass. Then, to her shock, he moved the wine around in his glass, looked at the color in the light, smelled it deeply, and drank it like a wine expert. Sophia's eyebrows crinkled. "What was that?" Liam lifted a brow. "What was what?" She pointed at his glass. "That was a real way to taste wine." Liam gave a sly smile. "Maybe I just like wine." Sophia looked closely. Normal guys don't do that. Then there was the car event. A few days later, as they walked past a fancy car shop, she had joked, "If you could have any car in the world, what would it be?" Liam hardly paused. "Aston Martin DBS Superleggera," he said easily. "V12 engine, 715 horsepower, top speed of 211 mph." Sophia stared at him. Most guys she knew wouldn't even recall the name of that car, let alone its details. Liam noticed her look and shrugged. "What? I like cars." Sophia didn't press it. But then came the money. One evening while Liam was in the shower, Sophia was looking for a pen in the small wooden drawer of their kitchen table. When she saw it, a big pile of fresh $100 notes, her heart froze. Liam had no money, didn't he? They saved for food, lived in an old, worn flat, bought food out on rare times. So where did this come from? She carefully picked up the pile, feeling the smooth paper with her fingers. It wasn't just a few notes. There had to be at least $10,000 sitting in that drawer. Before she could think it through, Liam's voice came from behind her. "Looking for something?" Sophia startled, almost letting the cash fall. Liam was leaning against the doorway, a towel wrapped around his neck, arms crossed. She turned to him, gaze full of doubt. Where did this come from? Liam simply walked over, took the pile from her hands and placed it back into the drawer, closing it saying nothing. Sophia stared at him. "Liam?" He finally met her gaze, that same annoying sly smile playing on his lips. "Does it matter?" he asked. Sophia blinked. "Of course it matters. We live like we can hardly pay for rent, but you have piles of cash just lying around." Liam shrugged. "I don't like spending money for no good reason. That's not an answer." He giggled, stepping closer. "Didn't you marry me because you loved me for who I am, not for what I have?" Sophia caught her breath. That's what she had said, that money didn't matter, that she didn't care about riches. But now, standing in front of him, knowing there was something he wasn't telling her, she felt uncomfortable. Liam lifted her chin slightly with his fingers, his voice softer now. "Believe me, Sophia," he murmured. "Everything will make sense soon enough." But would it? Sophia's inside felt strange. She had seen the signs, the way Liam never seemed worried about money despite them living in an old flat, the way he easily listed car details like a collector, the way he used wine like a skilled expert, and now a secret pile of cash. A scary idea grew in her thoughts. Was Liam doing something against the law? The floor made noise under her as she moved her body. Liam's head shot up. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then slowly Liam closed the drawer, his fingers tightening around the edge, his jaw tightened, his face hard to guess. Sophia made herself speak up. "Where did that money come from?" Liam sighed, rubbing his nose. "It's not what you think, Sophia." Her heart felt tight. "Then explain it to me." Liam paused for only a moment, and that moment was enough. "Are you?" Sophia swallowed. "Are you in some kind of trouble?" Liam's eyes grew stern. "No." "Then why are you keeping piles of money secret?" Her voice rose. "You act like we can hardly buy food, but you have thousands of dollars sitting in a drawer. What on earth is happening?" Liam exhaled sharply, anger showing on his face. "Sophia, just trust me." "Trust you?" she snorted. "How can I trust you when you keep secrets from me?" Liam's gaze sparked. "I could ask you the same thing. You married me thinking I was just some poor guy, and that was fine, right? But now, the moment you see money, you think the worst things." Sophia opened her mouth, but Liam stopped her talking. "You think I'm a bad guy?" he snapped. Sophia pulled back, feeling bad. She hadn't said it outright, but had she implied it? Liam shook his head, his voice quieter now, but filled with deep feeling. "I thought you saw me for who I was, not for what I had or didn't have." Sophia's voice choked. "I do," she whispered. Liam's jaw moved, his hands making into tight balls before he turned away. "Then act like it," he muttered, walking out of the kitchen and leaving her standing there more lost than before. The next day, Sophia couldn't get rid of the thought that she was not knowing a big thing. Liam had secrets, and she needed to know what they were. That afternoon, while looking through some old books in their apartment, she found an old newspaper piece hidden inside the pages. Her heartbeat quickened. It was an old business article, dated 3 years ago. And right there in the middle of the page was a photo of Liam, or at least someone who looked just like him. But the name under the photo wasn't Liam. It was Liam Alexander Sterling. Her hand shook as she read the main words, "Rich man's son vanishes, the secret of Liam Sterling." Sophia felt a chill. Who on earth had she married? The farmer's market was full of bright sights and talk. The smell of warm bread, sweet fruit, and hot coffee stayed in the cool morning breeze as Sophia and Liam moved through the busy people. It had become their small weekend habit, walking through the market, picking up fresh foods, and joking about needing more fancy bread. Sophia had grown to love these mornings. There was something peaceful about them, something real. She reached for a clump of red berries when a voice, harsh, teasing, very well known, pierced the air from behind her. "Well, well, look who it is!" Sophia stopped still. Slowly she turned around, and there, standing in the middle of the market in his costly, well-made suit, was Daniel. And beside him, arm held tightly around his, was Lisa. Sophia's inside felt bad. Liam, feeling her change, placed a gentle hand on her lower back. "Friends of yours?" he asked lightly, though there was a small firmness in his tone. Sophia breathed out slowly. "Something like that." Daniel gave a sly smile. "I have to say, Sophia, I almost didn't know you without your fancy clothes and shining jewels." Lisa let out a gentle giggle, looking Liam from head to toe with a bad look. "And this must be your husband." Her voice was full of teasing. Liam stayed quiet, but Sophia could feel the way his body grew a bit stiff beside her. Daniel crossed his arms, plainly having fun. "It's actually sad, really. You used to be someone, Sophia, and now you're married to a man who can hardly buy good shoes." Sophia's anger flared. How could he say that? Liam had been only kind to her, only calm and caring. And yet, Daniel, with his empty, money-focused pride, was bold enough to stand there and tease him. Sophia raised her head. "At least he loves me," she said calmly, her voice firm and strong. Daniel's sly smile faded for a brief moment before he gave a cold laugh. "Love? Oh, Sophia, that's cute. But let's be honest, love doesn't pay the bills." Lisa leaned into him, her red lips curving into a mean, sly smile. "And let's be honest, what does your husband have other than that old jacket?" Sophia's fingers made a tight ball, but before she could speak, Liam finally did. "I have enough," Liam said calmly. His voice was calm, not caring, but his eyes told a different story. Deep, planning, like he was pleased by something no one else knew. And then he smiled, a small, wise smile, like he was keeping a truth that could rock their world. Daniel gave a small frown, as if for the first time he felt that something was off. Lisa, however, just snorted. "You're not seeing real life." But Liam simply tilted his head, his smile never fading. And Sophia, standing beside him, couldn't stop thinking that the rules were about to flip in a way Daniel and Lisa would never expect. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle sound of the old clock on the wall. Sophia sat on the couch, her heart racing, her hands shaking as she held the letter she had just found. The name on it stuck in her thoughts. Liam Alexander Sterling. Not Liam Carter, not Liam Smith. Liam Alexander Sterling. She knew that name. Everyone in the business world did. The Sterling Empire was one of the most strong groups of companies in the country, with money and land, tech, and fancy goods. But 3 years ago, after a family shame, Liam Sterling, the only son to inherit, had vanished completely. And now he was sitting in their small flat, acting like a normal guy. Sophia's inside felt strange. This wasn't just a secret. This was a lie. Liam walked through the front door a few minutes later, lightly throwing his keys onto the table. He looked at her and smiled like nothing was wrong, but everything was wrong. "You're home early," he said, taking off his coat. "I was thinking of making pasta tonight, unless you're wanting something different." Sophia didn't move. Her fingers held the letter so hard that it crumpled under her touch. Finally, she spoke. "Liam Alexander Sterling." The words stayed in the air, weighty, hard to breathe. Liam's hands stopped in action. Slowly, his eyes lifted to hers. There was no confusion in them, no shock, just a calm knowing. Sophia swallowed hard. "That's your real name, isn't it?" Liam exhaled softly and ran a hand through his hair, his face hard to guess. "Where did you find that?" he asked, his voice calm. "That's not the point, Liam," she cried out, standing up, her feelings bursting out. "The point is, you lied to me. You let me believe you were just some regular guy. When in truth, you're a billionaire," he finished for her, a small, sly smile playing on his lips. Sophia's inside felt pained. "This isn't funny," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Liam sighed and leaned against the counter, folding his arms. "Because I didn't want you to love me for my money," he said simply. Sophia froze. His voice was calm, true, deep. "You think I haven't seen it before?" he went on. "People acting to care. Women who saw me like I was a trophy instead of a person." His gaze grew dim. "I needed to know what it was like to be loved for who I am, not my value." Sophia caught her breath. The truth of it hurt much. She had been raised in a world where money meant everything. She had seen people marry for rank, for control. And she had almost married Daniel, a man who had seen her as nothing more than a tool for deals. Now standing in front of her was Liam, a man who had chosen to leave behind riches to find something real. And he had chosen her. A tear ran down her face. Liam stepped closer, his voice softer now. "I never meant to hurt you, Sophia," he murmured, "but now that you know the truth, I have to ask." He lifted a hand to softly hold her face, his thumb wiping the tear. "Do you still love me?" he asked quietly. Sophia's heart beat fast. Yes, she thought. because for the first time in her life, money didn't matter. He did. The rooftop was covered in the golden shine of small lights, the gentle sound of jazz music playing lightly. A mild night wind brought the smell of fresh roses mixing with the warmth of candlelight that danced on the nicely laid table. Sophia looked in wonder. The scene before her was amazing, too ideal, too much like a dream. She turned to Liam, who stood beside her, his hands placed in his pockets, watching her reaction with calm pleasure. "You did all this?" she asked, her voice hardly louder than a soft breath. Liam gave a sly smile. "I had some help." Sophia let out a gasping laugh, shaking her head. "You know, most regular guys don't have access to rooftop spots and personal cooks." Liam giggled. "Yes, that's true." He reached for her hand, leading her toward the table, pulling out a chair for her before taking his own seat across from her. The dinner was perfect. Small tastes of fine foods, a bottle of deep, smooth wine that Liam skillfully poured into her glass. But despite the beauty surrounding them, Sophia couldn't stop the feelings turning inside her. A part of her still found it hard to link the two sides between the Liam she had come to love and the rich family son he truly was. "You're quiet," Liam noticed, watching her closely. Sophia sighed, setting down her fork. "I guess I'm still thinking through it all." Liam nodded as if he got it. "Because of the money?" Sophia paused, then nodded. "It's not that I care about riches, Liam," she said. "It's just this world of yours. The one you left behind, it's different from mine. What if I don't belong?" Liam leaned forward, his gaze fixed on hers. "You think I care about any of that?" Sophia opened her mouth to answer, but Liam suddenly stood up, and then he dropped to one knee. Sophia's gasp caught in her chest. Liam pulled a small, soft box from his pocket and slowly opened it up, showing an amazing diamond ring shining under the rooftop lights. Her heart pounded. "Sophia," he said softly, his voice calm but full of feeling, "I don't want to just be the guy you married in a tipsy time." He took a breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to be the man you choose, the man who stands beside you, not by accident, but because you wish me there." Sophia felt tears fill her eyes. Liam took her hand in his thumb softly rubbing her hand. "Forget the money," he murmured. "Forget the name. I'm just Liam. You're Liam." A tear ran down her face, because in her heart, she had always known he was hers. She nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes," she whispered. Liam's face brightened, and in one quick move, he slid the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms, and just like that, she wasn't lost anymore. She had found home. The large hall of the Sterling Foundation was filled with warm golden light, the gentle music mixing with the buzz of talk. Guests moved gracefully around the room, lifting glasses of bubbly in joy. But this wasn't just another fancy social gathering. This was Sophia and Liam's wish came true. Their foundation, set up to aid women who were left, hurt, or had to start over alone. It was doing well because Sophia knew what it felt like to lose everything. And now she had a chance to help others, to give belief to others who had once stood where she had. Liam stood beside her, his hand lightly on her lower back, his being there keeping her steady as she smiled at the guests. She had never imagined her life would turn out like this. Not just rich, but full of purpose. Then, as they met the people, a known voice made Sophia stop still. "Well, well, isn't this a surprise?" She turned, and there they were, Daniel and Lisa. Only they were different now. Gone was Daniel's pride, his sure manner. His once perfectly made suit now looked a bit old. The normal sly smile on his face changed to a sour look. And Lisa, who had once covered herself in costly items, stood beside him with a worried look, as if the earth under her was no longer firm. Sophia lifted a brow. "Daniel!" Daniel made a fake smile, but there was something hopeless in his gaze. "You've certainly climbed in life." Lisa snorted. "Enjoy it while it lasts." Sophia didn't react. She simply tilted her head. "I heard about Lisa's father's company. Too bad." Liam, who had stayed quiet, now finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Business is hard to guess. One wrong move and everything falls apart." Lisa's jaw tightened and Daniel's face grew grim. They had once saw Sophia as less. Now they were the ones fighting to stay steady. Sophia held tight Liam's hand and smiled. "You know what? I think I should actually thank you, Daniel." He gave a frown. "For what?" "For leaving me that night," she said, her voice steady, confident. "Because if you hadn't, I wouldn't have found the best choice I ever made." She turned to Liam, her heart full. "Him." Daniel said nothing. Lisa sighed and pulled him away, disappearing into the crowd. Sophia let out a small laugh, shaking her head. "Fair outcome, don't you think?" Liam gave a sly smile. "I prefer to call it karma." The sun sent golden light over the personal beach spot. Waves softly touched the sand. Sophia sat under a large sun umbrella, watching as two small shapes, one boy, one girl, ran toward the water, laughing as Liam chased after them. They're twins, Leo and Eliana. Sophia's heart grew warm. Once she had lost everything, and now she had a family, a purpose, a love that had went against all chances. Liam ran back to her, their children laughing as they held to his legs. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "Happy?" he murmured. Sophia smiled, reaching for his hand. "More than I ever thought possible," she said. She looked at her family, at the life they had built, and whispered, "You were the best choice I ever made." And so Sophia's path shows that sometimes life's biggest hurts guide us to our most surprising gifts. She lost everything, her riches, her standing, even her family. But in that loss, she found true love, found herself, and built a life more full of meaning than she had ever imagined. Liam had never needed his money to gain her love. He had only ever needed to be himself. Together, they changed hurt into meaning, leaving a mark of goodness that would help many other people. And in the end, that was the biggest riches of all. If this story moved your feelings, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heart-Moving Stories for more uplifting stories of love, strength, and new starts. See you in the next story.